Hello, everyone, and welcome to Venus Consciousness and my Wednesdays with Venus. I am going live in this Wednesday evening, trying out a different time. Not sure if it's a good one, but thought that I would anyway come on. And I'm sitting here in my car because I don't have very good internet in my house at the moment. But I thought I would try hooking up to my car's internet and see if it would be better. Hi, Anil. Welcome. And yeah, welcome to my live session. And I just wanted to come on because I enjoy being here with you guys and I enjoy taking a moment to just sort of talk about the healing journey and keeping it real and all the things that are part of, being a human on this planet we call Earth, and this I like to call it Earth School, and what it means to be real, what it means to keep showing up, and what it means to have faith even when life is not necessarily giving you everything that you hope, or when your heart feels a lot of longing for things that maybe you wish that you had or wish that were different, and when it's not. And, I think wanting to unpack a little bit of this whole, um, the whole manifestation, because I feel like it gets a bad rap. And the whole like, you know, oh, if you, I mean, here's the thing. I personally have found that manifesting actually does work. And if you get really clear on like what it is that you want and really, I think it's about being intentional, like intentional with how that you not necessarily what it is that you want, but how it feels in here. So, for example, I was in a situation which I've if you follow me, you know that I have been through some things as all of us have if we've lived, even if we've not even lived that long, you've been through some stuff. And so for me, it was really during a really rough period in my life. I was, married to my first husband. He was a rebound. We got pregnant because we weren't really being very safe, like, weren't really thinking about it. I wasn't taking it seriously and got pregnant, decided to get married, but we barely knew each other. And he came from an abusive family and, had a lot of unworked, his own sort of nervous system being really watching his dad be abusive to his mom and just his own trauma from growing up in a household like that. And then, as I often say, if you don't turn it around when you're a child of abuse or you witness abuse or addiction, and if you don't decide to be the cycle breaker, then you end up recapitulating those patterns that you learn. And so, anyway, point being, I'm married because like my programming was okay, well, my parents, little did I know the abuse I had, like my dissociative amnesia. I didn't remember all my childhood abuse, but I did know that I had a chaotic upbringing. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this the same way. So I think all of us sort of we grow up with this programming of like, okay, I'm gonna, do the things like get married, have kids, find a job, do all the things. And it's not to say, welcome, Damien. It's not to say that like, and Frankie, hi. um, yeah, it's not to say that I think so many of us, even if you aren't someone that ends up following that script exactly, so many of us are like, okay, well, it's time to like it's time to follow that programming of the get a job, get married, have kids. And so and then it's like work, retire, done. Like it's just this ridiculous script that we're handed. And so, as little girls, like we watch the Disney movies and it's like, oh, the Disney princess, she's waiting for her Prince Charming. And it's like those actually do have an effect on the psyche. It's not just the Disney princess movies, it's all of it. It's the entire soup that we're swimming in. So I did the whole thing, got pregnant unintentionally, and instead of being like, "Oh, he seems a little bit my intuition not really strong. I was like blinders on. I was like, okay, well, I'm pregnant. I have to marry, have to have, and it's like I had other options. But I decided now looking back, I'm like, you could have kept the baby and done it on your own. But back then I was like, got to get married, got to do it. So anyway, I am going to talk about manifestation eventually, but I'm on a tangent about like programming and how we just like follow the steps and we have these blinders on when we're basically, following these patterns of trauma and recapitulating what society's telling us to do. So anyway, I'm unhappily married, let's put it that way, because my nervous system can't regulate. Hi, Scott, welcome. Anyway, my nervous system can't regulate, and so I'm like in this situation where I'm um doing all the things even though my intuition is screaming like you don't really feel safe here, you don't feel emotionally met, like you were never attracted to him even really, but you I just was following the program, and it was like, and because I'm a survivor, I talk a lot about this, like danger equaling intimacy. So like for me with my first husband, it was like because oh, hi, and then, I feel like there's okay, maybe that's the same Scott. Anyway, 2 Scotts. One is a Scott C and one is a Scott, but they're both Scott Anderson, so I don't even know. There's 2 Scotts here. Welcome to both of you. Anyway, so anyway, following the script, doing the things without really thinking about, like, following our intuition because so many of us we because of either like extreme abuse or a lot of microaggressions of being told by society you can't be, it's not safe to be who you want to be, it's not safe to be you, basically in essence it's not safe to be you. Oh, thanks. I got my heart tattoo, and I'll just show you guys my tattoos. I have some up my back too, but this one, it's like big heart little heart, and it means basically, I think of it as like the soul, like our soul or our spirit holding our human self, because really the healing journey has to do with big, like, so big self, like big S, or I should do it backwards for you guys. Big S, little s, because like this was a term I learned in therapy, and I'm going on another tangent. Those of you who watch my lives, you know that I go like on these, I think that like anyone who's a storyteller or and which is mostly all of us, you probably notice that like you like to pick up threads, and then you bring it back, and then at the very end you bring it all back around, but you go on these like little mini tangents, and you go on these like I think it's a certain type of brain, and even though like I'm undiagnosed ADHD, that's one of the types of brains, but I feel like anyone who's a creative, we have this capacity to sort of like think meta. So like when we're telling stories or writing, we want to bring in all these layers. And so it's like if you follow the thread, it eventually comes back. So it's like I want to talk about manifestation, but in getting to manifestation, I want to tell the backstory. And the backstory is how I was following this script and got pregnant from a rebound, decided to marry him even though he was yikes scary from the beginning. And yeah, you want to explain all the pieces. And so it's true. So like basically, yeah, the healing journey, it's about uncovering. Today in art therapy, I made this really beautiful, well, I thought it was beautiful, but like the little the Russian dolls that like one in front of the other in front of the other, and like they stack down or stack up. And so basically yeah, there are I drew this because I'm about to go next week. I'm going back to, and I was talking about this and writing about this. I'm going back to Rhythmia, which is a licensed ayahuasca plant medicine facility in Costa Rica. That is, and I had never done ayahuasca before, but 3 years ago after Finn died, I was drawn to do it. And part of the uncovering of like my dissociative amnesia and being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse came up because of doing this experience and being cracked open by Finn dying. But the very first cracking open was going back to the manifestation, going back and back, is when I had gotten pregnant on a rebound, again, acting out all this stuff of like chasing, just not that you need to know Venus's whole history, but maybe you do. Chasing. So like the lovers I was always going for was like the unavailable, like because we go for what's familiar, right? So like completely unavailable. And then I was always like, am I worthy? Maybe if I love enough, maybe if I chase enough, maybe if I give enough, I'll be I'll be loved back. Like maybe if I give the love I always wanted, right? So I went for the unavailable type, and then the other type I went for, which was like the other flip side of these earliest caregivers that I can't get into detail because there's legal proceedings going on, but like other earliest caregivers that were also like very unpredictable, and that flipping of a switch and like going from caregiver to monster sort of type deal, or that like scariness. And so being exposed to that from a young age, and also being hardwired with the, like I told you, the danger, or I've told anyone who follows me, the danger equals intimacy, which I just really love that, because I feel like how many of us, even if you didn't have our earliest caregiver that was dangerous, like the world itself is pretty fucking dangerous because of like all this hurt humans walking around raising these babies that are like completely dependent on their parents. So I think that we all get a certain level of danger intimacy woven in to our earliest moments. And even if it's like danger because you're getting bullied on the playground, or danger because it doesn't feel safe, because even if it's not like someone physically or sexually abusing you, they're maybe slightly tuned out. And like as these young little infants, we come in so open, so pure, so vulnerable. And when we have our caregivers not able to meet us because they're recapitulating their own pain and the whole generational trauma that we're all born into, you get these wirings of like of our nervous systems constantly trying to recreate what's familiar, because what's familiar feels like love. Because when you're an infant, you were like, hi Elias, welcome. When you were an infant, you were like, well, maybe if you get wired in that like this must be all I deserve, this must be all I'm good for, I must not be worthy. So anyway, in that same vein, I was chasing after all that, going after the unavailable one that seemed just enough like the breadcrumbs, you know, um, like a colleague who wanted to like come over and have, like midnight hookups, but then didn't want to admit that he was together with me. And like, of course, fell for that because my nervous system was like, oh, that's familiar. And I bet a lot of you can relate to this, like being breadcrumbed along. And then I was like, fuck that. I'm not going to do that anymore. So I go on to match.com, and meanwhile I'm like 28, so my biological clocks, I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Let's get the show moving. Like I'm ready for some babies. I want to get like do the whole Disney princess thing, happily ever after. So like I was like, okay, and I meet this person, Daniel, my ex, who's like extremely familiar again in the like, and this is what I mistook with him, was like loyalty, possessiveness for loyalty. And I realized how many people in my life, even up until like very recently, where I feel like I finally cleared the slate of like all the people that are really too wounded, because if they can't love themselves, they can't love you, right? And because you are looking for worth, you're looking for love, you may not be as unconsciously, I'm assuming you're not, because you're here like following me. And I feel like so many people on Substack, we're actually like the sensitives and the creatives and the empaths who just got so battered and beat up in the storm of it all, that like and our compass gets all bent because of this early conditioning of danger or unavailability equaling intimacy. So we're like trying to to fill, like maybe if I give what I never got, like I was saying before. Anyway, so point being, I end up with it. So like mistaking possessiveness, like how many people, I wrote about this and I think I've talked about it too. Like if you are food for an ego versus love for a soul. So like if someone is wrapped up in their own ego, and these are like family members of mine and people I've walked away from, friends, like people that are, because of their own fragmentation, operating from this fragmented masked self that is like the egoic self of like who they think they are, or who they thought society. Oh, I see a mosquito. It's like it's that time of night, and for those of you who joined late, I'm in my car because my Wi-Fi is sort of a big mess. So I thought it might be better here, but for all I know, I'm going to rewatch this and it's going to be completely blurry. But anyway, so it's sunset here and it's actually really pretty. I would show the camera around, but then it might not. Anyway, I can't right now, but there's a pretty sunset on my land right now. And that's one of the things. Okay, I'm leading us back. I'm leading us back to manifestation because it is possible to manifest, but first you have to free yourself from the conditioning of the subconscious. And so, like, when people are like, oh, the whole manifestation, like, oh, I want a red fancy sports car, so I'm going to get one, like, that's bullshit. It doesn't actually work. No, manifestation actually does work. And it even works for material things like finances that I'm going to get into. But you have to be doing it from the place of what the feeling is inside. You have to heal this in order to create this feeling of abundance, this feeling of already having what it is that you want to have, and then you get it. So it's really not as simple as like, oh, my mind, if I focus on the red car, I'll eventually get the red car. No, you have to go digging, excavating, alchemizing, like dig in the muck, dig in the muck, dig in the muck, figure out what's hurting in here, sit with it, hold it, be with it, cry about it, break down about it, be a hot mess about it. And then eventually you begin to sift and you begin to be like, what's actually living in this? Like, why was Venus chasing after either unavailable, like, yeah, you're good enough to be breadcrumbed and hook up with, but I don't want to be, admit that I'm with you, or, oh, I'll be with you, but I'm gonna like energy vampire suck all your light out because like I can see you're bright and I'm gonna be possessive. So like if you leave me, I'll kill you type deal. Not to say it always is that extreme, but that's what I had. But anyway, I think a lot of us run maybe more subtle versions of these scripts with people because we're hurting, as I was saying. So, anyway, at this time that I was with my first husband in this situation that was not safe emotionally, and was about to not get safe physically, that was, my nanny turned me on to The Secret. I don't know if any of you have ever read this or seen the movie The Secret, but it's about manifesting and it's about this whole idea of like, if you get really clear that our brain, like there's all these studies that say the brain, for example, they've done a study of where they had people practice shooting hoops. This is another example of the power of the brain, right? Shooting hoops every day for 15 minutes. One third of the group did it, one third of the group didn't do anything, and one third of the group did it only in their mind. Now, the group that actually went and shot the hoops, there was like maybe, I don't even remember, like 54% improvement or maybe a 60. And then the group though that like only did it in their mind, it was like 40%. So like you're doing something only in your mind and you are having a result. This is like verified and there are more than one study. You guys have probably heard of some of these studies. So to my point, I hope that my car wireless internet doesn't go off because then it might glitch on my system. But anyway, hopefully you guys can still see me. So like to my point, if you are doing something like Joe Dispenza, if any of you guys watch his stuff or have heard of his stuff, I don't really follow him, but I know a lot of people do, but he's really big in the like, you can heal from your mind alone. So basically we have this untapped resource, which is when the mind aligns with the feeling, when we can align with something that is more than just like the picture. You have to do more than just picture it. It has to become a strong enough feeling sense. So, for example, I'm about to give you the example. I watched this movie, The Secret, that like, yes, the famous red car is in it. Like you could get yourself a red, but I did eventually end up getting myself a sports car. I believe because I was manifesting that. But it doesn't, the thing is you can tell the universe what you can't ask the universe. You don't get to say when it's going to happen and you don't get to say how it's going to happen. You just get to like put it in the soup of like, this is something, but you have to feel it. You have to feel as if you've already have it, and then you have to feel grateful for it. So as long as you are in a place of, because really we block ourselves from being in resonance with the thing. The universe is like all expansive, all abundant, but we block ourselves because of this pain that we carry. Like Eckhart Tolle talks about the pain body, because we're carrying so many negative subconscious beliefs. It's like a big old iron, steel, cement brick wall between you and the thing that you want, be it a relationship, be it money, be it friendship, be it a new job. Like you are in this place because of your negative self-beliefs that even if you're like, but I really want that, but what is that yearning doing? That yearning, like I was talking about, like when I kept manifesting these new relationships, was really I'm not worthy. I don't feel love because I was taught from the earliest age that I was treated like a piece of shit, so I must be a piece of shit. And it wasn't all the time, but it was enough to snap that in because, I think most people, unless you're like really being raised by like the absolute, like only assholes all the time, most parents and earliest caregivers and others are like, they have like fragments of their personality where they might be trying, and then but they have the bullshit they haven't dealt with, and they're fragmented from their shadow. I just wrote about self-love being a integration of the shadow, because if you can't integrate those feelings of the I must not be good enough. Take Daniel, my ex, for example. Like, he couldn't integrate like what it felt like to grow up watching his dad abuse his mom. He couldn't integrate it, so he just snapped off and then recapitulated it by becoming the abuser too. And so that it's happened to other people, like I said, that I can't name, but like so many, I bet you guys can see that too. So like, in order to do this thing where you become a powerhouse and you actually manifest what it is that you want and desire, you have to get to the other point of feeling like, if only I had that then. And it has, because everything is happening in the present. And this is the trippiest thing, because like, when we're here on earth, like, it doesn't feel like everything's in the present. It feels like we have a past, and it feels like there's a future, and everything around us, even watching time, like watching the sun, as I'm watching this sunset, like set, and watching the night become night. And then the next day, like, it feels like time is on a linear path and that we're on a road, which in a way we are. But the thing that you have to remember is that your soul is A, multidimensional, B, always expanding, as is the universe, as is everything, and that things are not as they seem. And I just wrote about this. Like, Galileo was put on house arrest, almost hung, but got, acquitted, whatever, put on house arrest for the rest of his life. But because he said that the earth goes around the sun, and the church, it's always like the powers that be, the collective, everyone was like, no, it doesn't. Look, it goes around us. And it's like, that's the same thing with time. And it's the same thing with anything. And so we're coming out of an age where we, as a world and as a society, it's like those, I sort of find it ironic. Like, is it really true that some people believe the world is flat, like the flat worlders or whatever they're called? Like, is that actually a thing? Like, nowadays you can have these like rabbit hole, conspiracies that can be the most bizarre things in the world, including a flat world. But my point is, things are not as they seem. And in order to be integrated, and then in order to come online and to become someone who's able to not only heal and become integrated, but manifest things like abundance and love and connection and like meaningful career paths and all the things, it requires this a belief, an exposure, first of all, to the fact, like what I'm talking about, because I feel like part of my mission is to like, I've lived it, I've done it, and I'm not perfect. I always, like, that's the thing, is anyone ever? No, we're all hot messes. But like, be willing. My latest article is on this. Be willing to show up naked, because if you can be willing to like bear it all and be like, I am who I am and I own that, that's when that real integration starts to happen. That's when you really begin to come online. And then if you can take that naked, like, I'm going, and part of like being naked means like allowing yourself to turn yourself inside out, to be like, what is that wounding, to be in those uncomfortable places that might mean, days on end of being, the house is a wreck, or you're like barely getting to work and back, and you're like, but you're taking time to be like, something's not right. I'm turning within. I'm looking. What is this saying? Like, I'm so irritated. Where did that irritation first start? It's a process of inquiry. And you don't have to have, like I say, the whole like self-love is not a slogan. One of my latest articles, like, it's not about like doing all the things, like making sure you get to your meditation or your journaling or your gratitude. Like, it's really much more of an organic process of going within and taking moments to ask yourself what. So, getting back to this manifestation, it is possible. You can go from a situation like me, like living in a safe house, um, and having what it was because of The Secret that I was like, wait, you can manifest something different. I don't just have to be on this train that we all jump on because we're told, like, the rat's on the wheel, like get married, have a kid, like mistake possessiveness for loyalty, like do whatever it takes to like have the baby, have the family, have the job, have the thing. Like, no, like, you can jump off that. Like, that's the false matrix. Like, you can get off that. That's why I love the movie The Matrix, because it's like you can jump off that train. You can pull yourself out. And so, like, it usually takes catastrophic events. consequence. Like having my husband attack me and like get charged with attempted murder like was a fucking catastrophic event. It was not fun. It was scary as fuck. It was traumatizing. It was horrible. But what came out of it? Oh, yay. Glad you can see. Glad you can see. And then I guess only on my computer it does the really cute hearts where they make hearts, but you know what? I'll just make it anyway. Anyway, so yeah, so like you can get into yourself to the place where you begin to integrate. You can get to a place where not only becoming the cycle breaker, but where you begin to manifest the things you do want. And an example is going back to the safe house. So I'm living in the safe house, feeling, even though it was like this cinder block apartment, it was safe. Like I didn't feel like I was in emotional or physical danger. And so I was so grateful to have that place. And like we had a Whole Foods right down the street that like, and I was on government food stamps because I like qualified, and then I was like, basically all I had was debt. I was homeless for a while before I found it with these two little kids. So all I had was like debt, and then again I trusted. I was like, I'm going to feel that it's going to work out for me. I'm going to trust. I'm going to, instead of getting really fearful like, oh shit, like yes, did I feel that? Yes, I felt a shit ton of that too. But like getting to that place of like, what's the gratitude feeling in me, like the gratitude, doing like inner inquiry, reading books like Eckhart Tolle, listening to Esther Hicks and Abraham, like always elevating. And like Esther Hicks and Abraham are all about like choose the next better feeling thought. So if you're feeling like ass, like what's a thought a little bit above feeling like utter ass, like I don't want to be here anymore, like fuck, like I don't know what I'm going to do. Like what's another feeling above that is like, okay, well, I don't want to be here anymore, but at least I have, a roof over my head, or at least I have this one friend who really checks in with me a lot, or like at least I have me, and like look what I'm doing for myself. But like you try to find the things that can like make you feel a little bit better and a little bit better. And so it's a process of sort of reorienting the mind to another possibility. Like my stepmom likes to say, what else is possible? Like, what is possible? And so I think, like, for me, I was in that spinning place of like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? And then an apartment opened up like right at the right time because I was like, you know what? I'm going to trust that I'm going to be taken care of. Like, I'm going to relax my nervous system. I'm going to do the thing. Like, for me, it ended up being, I was staying with my sister at the time on the beach. Like, she lives in Manhattan Beach. And I was like walking the beach and being like, I'm so grateful that I get to be here right now, that I found a place to stay. I've since become estranged from my family because of other things, but like at the time, I was like, again, because that people that don't want to do the work, they want to, the whole thing I always talk about, like, are you going to be genuine? Are you going to have integrity? Are you going to like show up with what's real, even if it hurts? Or are you going to brush it under the rug and keep the mask up? Like, all you have to do is look around at most influencers and politicians and so many people around us. Like it's the masquerade ball called life. But anyway, I was walking the beach and I was like, instead of feeling really traumatized and well, of course I was feeling traumatized, but like instead of just feeling the fear, I'm going to trust that something's going to work out. I'm going to trust that feeling of like, I can be safe. I can be at home in my own body. Like this is going to work out. So doing a lot of that, like calming the nervous system, because really like a trauma, I wrote about this, a body in trauma is a nervous system with a permanent fever. And so you got to find these ways to like calm down the feverish pitch, go within, be okay in here, really start to feel like it's going to be okay because I know even though I struggle, like let's say with, feeling worthy or whatever, the thoughts come, I'm going to dig underneath that for a place of like of gratitude of like actually look, I am lucky I'm walking in the beach, or look, I found this safe house apartment. Look, I can do this. And so like from these places, I was like, I get to shop at Whole Foods and I have enough money to buy groceries for me and my kids, even though I don't have a job. Like I don't have to run ragged. Why? Because yeah, it took becoming like bottom of the barrel where society actually has some safety nets if you're like pretty much homeless, but like otherwise middle class, like fuck you. But like at bottom of the barrel, I was able to like get the support I needed. And so I just remember being like, I'm so grateful I get to live in North Boulder. I get to have these things. I get to nourish my body and my children and have a roof over our head and it's going to be okay. And so, like, every time you drop out of the, like, frenetic, like, fear, fight, or flight hindbrain stuff, like I talk a lot about, and you can get up into wise brain and you can get up into that place because, like, the third eye is connected to all the chakras. So, like, when you start to become here where you're wise brain, you also drop down into your throat chakra, which is like, I can speak my truth. Drop down into the heart, which is like, I can and am love. Drop down into your belly button, which is like, I am empowered to make the choices I need to do. Drop down, which is the hardest one. That is what having gone to rhythmia, which I'm going back, like opened up because I didn't know about the abuse. Because I always felt like I was like okay from here down or from here down, but like not knowing because of the dissociative amnesia that like I had jumped out and just sort of like I think so many of us even without such extreme maybe sexual abuse, but like other things, we just live like we're in a world that like we exist from the head up. And it's like, oh, as long as it makes rational sense. Oh, as long as you can like justify it, all the talk, and it's all the masks and it's all the warring egos and stuff. But like when you really start to come in, you can go all the way down. And when you do certain ceremonial, like going within, asking for guidance, like giving yourself the space, being in nature, whatever it is that allows you to drop in, you begin to go all the way down to the root chakra, which is where like the sexual healing comes from, which is where, and it's not necessarily about sexual healing, like go off and be sexual. Like, I haven't even had sex in like 4.5 years, but I'm like finding a way to be sexual in my own being. Like I'm finding my own sexuality because humans are intrinsically sexual. Like it's not like we are one whole body. So, like, all of us, all the way down and all the way up, we are divine and we're sexual. We're all of it. But it gets so twisted around because of the false matrix, because of all of the abuse that is subtle and not subtle, all of the programming, all of the hypersexualized culture of like, everything has to be super sexualized, but it's super performative, just like performative healing, where it's like, it's all the fucking mask wearing, which includes sexuality. And it's not to say that like that's all that's there, but like how many of us are like operating from a place where like you have sexual encounters and you realize like going back to Daniel, I was never even fucking attracted to him, but I like convinced myself I was because like he looked he was charming, tall, dark, and handsome type thing. But his energy, if I had been at the time I am now, where I can now, like I call it the BS radar, where I can actually feel if someone is like doing the work or genuine or whatever, I would have been like, no fucking way am I going to get near you, let alone have sex with you. But like at the time, it was all this like, well, maybe if I'm good enough, oh, he seems so loyal. Oh, believe the mask, believe the mask, believe the mask. And so, like, I wasn't even ever attracted to him, but like ended up being married to him, having kids with him, having sex with him, obviously a lot because we were married. Never even like something that my body ever even wanted. And could I ever access that? No, I could not access that. So like it gets really buried. And I didn't mean to go on a sexual tangent, but like it is all interconnected. So I think that, in order to get to the place where you can like drop all the way in, like I'm saying, to the root chakra, which is your sacrum, which is your divine sexual center, and then all the way up like to your creative center, which is like in your lower belly, which is also your boundaries. When your boundaries get blasted open and your sexuality gets twisted and warped because of society in whatever myriad of ways it could happen to you, that goes offline because it's not safe. So you begin to live like up, 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 up. So root to rise means going down, 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 down. And you have to heal that and you have to be okay with that and you have to explore it. You have to be okay with exploring what does it feel like to be sexual in just your own energy body with just yourself. Like, and then when you get to that place, you begin to realize that we were always meant to be these beings that were completely integrated. And when you're integrated, you can do these things where you begin to manifest things. And it's not like I say, healing's not a one and done. Healing is a spiral. So like take when I very first was deciding that I was going to manifest wealth. I hadn't healed. I hadn't even remembered my sexual trauma. So like I hadn't healed all that, but I was still to the point where I had been able to come in. I was very intentional that I was like, for example, on the folder icon on my laptop where I had to go into credit card debt and collection agencies because I didn't have a job because I was on the run, and like the credit cards were in my name and he was going to prison, like all the things. But I decided, because I was following this channeler Lee Harris and I was listening to Esther Hicks and reading Eckhart Tolle, I put an icon of a pile of gold on top of the folder that had all my debt stuff if you clicked on it. And I told myself, I was like, I am going to manifest gold. Like I am gold, because gold and money is really just the material level of abundance. It's just one aspect of abundance. And it's co-opted because of the systems that would keep us oppressed sexually, intellectually, spiritually, like, all the dogma religions that are like, you're lowly, but you know, if you repent enough, then you might get to the place with the white guy with the beard in the sky who says it's okay. And I'm not digging on dissing Christianity, because I actually believe in Christ consciousness, and I believe that Jesus was a prophet and full of Christ consciousness and unconditional love. Do I believe there's only one son of God? No, I believe that you and I are sons and daughters of God. I believe that God is love consciousness. I believe that that's one story. That's one way to represent God consciousness. Like, do I think I am the God, the one and only, or you, or no, like God is existence. And so I'm not like, if someone is like, oh my God, she's being blasphemous, like that, to me, it's like, why do we have to again get into these wars where it's like my story over your story? My story. Like, it's like, what is that? Like, that's just fear. That's just the fear and domination programming running, being like, I have to be right, you have to be wrong. Well, what else does that? What else does the I'm right, you're wrong? I'm gonna kill you because you, like, I'll watch all the wars. You did this and I want this, like the rule of the mightiest. Like, that's not divine love. That's not divine consciousness. That's not Christ consciousness. That's just the ego masquerading as it. And then you write it down in books and it becomes an institution and it becomes the law of the land and it becomes the spiritual law of the land. And that's how we get stuck. But anyway, that's another rampage. But like, anyway, so I put this gold on top of my folder, and I was like, I'm going to manifest abundance. I didn't know how, but I was like, but I'm going to do it. So I eventually just, I kept feeling this feeling of like, I feel so lucky. I get to buy groceries and I get to be with my babies, and I don't have to work, and I have a roof over my head, and I get to shop at Whole Foods of all things, which now I'm sort of boycotting it because I'm like, Amazon. I'm like trying, but it's like really hard to boycott like all the big, billion-dollar baby boy industries because they're in everything. But I guess my point is, at the time I was like, look, I get to shop at this natural grocery store with high-end groceries on food stamps not working. And I was just grateful. And I was like, one day it's going to be more than this. But the feeling is like, if you can be grateful for what you have, you can manifest more. And if you can remove that feeling of like, but I'm not good enough, but like try to just sit with all those things that might arise. Like when you think about one of the exercises Lee Harris gave was, he's like, picture a $100 bill. What comes up for you when you look at that $100 bill? Do you get some resistance? Is there some stuff that like arises in you around it? Because like all of those limiting beliefs, like that's interference. That's like Yoda in Star Wars. Like, you have to, like, may the force be with you. Like, if you have the interference of the doubt, then the force is not with you. It's the same metaphor. So like really getting clear of like, I am love. I'm in the universe is love. Infinite abundance is possible. I'm worthy of this. And like, you really day in and day out get into this place. Now I'm just using money as an example because I wanted to tell you guys about the story of what happened. So like, I didn't know how it was going to come into being, but I just trusted, and I just like kept putting one foot in front of the other, and different things happened. And then I met Finn, who, if you any of you follow me, is like, he died of cancer. So that's the tragic part, but he was also my soulmate. And like, we had this destiny encounter on a night very similar to tonight with the, it's probably going to get dark and I'm to get off this live soon. But anyway, on a night similar to tonight, this beautiful Colorado sunset, we met at the dog park, started talking, and there was this instant recognition where I was like, I feel safe. I feel like I could barely see him because he had like a cap on and glasses and like a big jacket. We were talking because our dogs were playing. And like, I could just feel I could hear it in his voice. And they say that the voice is the doorway to the soul. Like, the eyes are the window to the soul. The voice is the doorway to the soul, which is why when you're using your voice, even if you're writing, it's still your voice coming out through your pen. And that's why it's so powerful. And that's why I say, don't ever give up. Like, keep writing, keep telling your story because it's so important. It's so important. It's not only important for you to share your voice, you're the only person that has your story. Like, I'm talking about all this random shit I survived. You have your random shit you survived. And it's, yes, it's random shit, but it's also your beautiful story and what you did with it. And it matters because you matter, and don't ever stop. So anyway, I like hear his voice and I like feel this instant recognition, and as I say, the rest is history. But like, so he came from like generational wealth, and like that was its own sort of sticky thing to sort of navigate, because as we got closer and I had the two little girls and I was just a teacher and like had barely any money, just coming out of debt, and being homeless and like rising up to that place. But, like, basically, I came into abundance, and then another thing I had told myself is I'd been like, "I'm gonna pay off these student loans because like, they're like a chain around my neck, and I just wanna be done with them." I hadn't told this to Finn, but the very first thing he did right when we got married was he's like, "I'm gonna pay off your student loans for you." And, like, I was planning on maybe, like, paying them off with because I was still working at the time before we had a baby together, like, paying him off on my own, but he was like, "No, I'll do that." And it's like, and I had told myself, I was like, "As soon as I can, I'm gonna pay these off. These are gonna be done. I can just feel it." And it wasn't like, "Oh, I'm telling myself from up here because 'cause I'm all stressed and I'm just thinking about it, and, I'm gonna pay those off because I need to pay them off because 'cause they're stressful." No, it was like I know that these are gonna be gone soon. I feel it, I know it, I believe it. So, yeah, that's a little bit about how it works, and I have so many other stories about how it works too, because it does work, and it can be done for anything. So, I think it's gonna get dark if I keep talking, and I am gonna let you guys go, but thank you so much for joining me, and I love you guys, and I really hope that you have a wonderful rest of whatever it is for you, day or night, mostly, probably day if you're here in the States, or rest of your evening, I meant, because it's 8 and I'm in Colorado. But, sending you guys all a lot of love, and, yeah, thanks for joining. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.